Volunteerism possesses a spirit where people who take part in the activities are sensitized to do so because they believe in the will of aiding their country to develop.
With the highest volunteerism in the country, there is no connection, there is no correlation, there is no relationship between volunteerism and development.
You presented your position. In other words, your thesis statement was very well couched and clearly presented.
Welcome once again to Osei-Krom, the Garden City and the capital of the Ashanti region. We are live in the Alote Auditorium of the College of Science in KNUST. We are still on the Yaz Intellectuals, and today promises to be electrifying. We shall be seeing our uncompromising moderators come up with rapt attention as they take into account every word that slips out of a debater. The Royals of Jean Aka Nelson shall come up against the Vandals of Commonwealth Hall, both from the University of Ghana.
Once again, you warmly welcome. My name is Emmanuel Edujenfi, and of course I'm here with
Nanaba Amwa.
And today we have great teams that are taking part in this Yaz Intellectuals Bay show. Of course, we are in this beautiful garden city of Kumasi, and you're all warmly welcome.
Okay, so we are coming live from KNUST in Osei-Krom, and we are going to have a very heated debate today. We'll go for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, the show continues.
21st century design, made with durable materials, bristles crafted to reach in between your teeth, flexible, allows easy control. Introducing Yaz range of toothbrushes, made for every pocket. For bulk purchases, call 0302 235294. Yaz toothbrushes, clean teeth, confident smile.
All right, so thank you very much and welcome from the break. First of all, we have Jean Nelson from the University of Ghana, Legon.
Jean Nelson, as our name predicts, we are the royal.
We have diversity when it comes to capacity.
That's why when it comes to education too, trust me, we are on top.
If it comes debates too, just watch out for my guys. I can promise you this all is one of the finest.
We have the men, we have the women, and we are the next batch of leaders in Ghana.
We are not coming to joke at all.
We're gonna blow your mind.
Because Nelson, our standards are just up there.
Other halls may be shouting, jumping, doing any wild thing you can think of, but Jean Nelson, we come cool and quiet, but we give you the best that will blow your mind.
The intellectual debate 2018. Watch out! We are coming with a bang!
Royal!
Nelson!
Royal!
Nelson!
Royal!
Jean Nelson is competing against Commonwealth Hall.
Here is where everything starts from, here is where everything ends.
And I stood for the truth, because when you are coming into the hall, you can see our stance, truth stance.
We have excelled in every single position we found ourselves.
We are taking over.
Vandals have never lost.
We want to get it better, want to get it done, they involve the Vandals.
We are speaking for the silent minority. We have been the voice when nobody was ready to speak. We come out home, as history holds it, have been able to produce a lot of big brains.
The former president, Mahama, was a good communicator because he was in our debate team.
So when you are talking about debate, where else do you look at? It's just Commonwealth Hall.
So wherever you are, whoever you may find yourself, get to know Commonwealth Hall is in the race. We don't only talk, but we prove it with actions.
They can shout, they can make the noise. But wait, let's get to the battlefield.
The intellectuals debate. We are ready as Vandals, and we make sure truth stands. We win, we win, we win, and that is what we know.
forget that this show is proudly sponsored by Yaz and supported by Capital O2 and Access Bank.
It's going to be quite an interesting one. We've already had very, very, very heated debate right here. And I'm sure we have supporters of John Nelson right here with us. And of course, Commonwealth Hall, popularly known as Vandal. So we're going to get very much started with this particular program.
Okay, Kwabena. So the debate topic for today is volunteerism is an interest that is lost in the Ghanaian. This is a contributing factor in lack of developmental growth in the country. Before we move on to the debate, Kwabena, kindly introduce our moderators.
All right, so for our moderators, we have Dr. Oseni Adam. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause? And we also have with us here Professor Goski Alabi. A round of applause for him. We also have Professor Martin Ousu with us. So they are going to make sure we have a very wonderful time right here.
Jean Aka Nelson Hall of University of Ghana is speaking for the motion, and Commonwealth Hall is speaking against the motion.
Jean Nelson will start it off for us.
The Honorable Chairperson, the judges, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen, I am Kumasa Molara, and I speak for the motion. According to the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, volunteerism is a feature of all cultures and societies. It is a fundamental source of community strength, resilience, solidarity, and social cohesion. It can help effect positive change by fostering inclusive societies that respect diversity, equality, and the participation of all. Such contributions are vital to promoting peace and security, advancing development, and protecting human rights and dignity. Now, to establish the context of this debate, we argue that volunteerism for the purpose of this debate would denote activities undertaken by a person or group of individuals by free will for the general public good without expectation of remuneration for whatever services are rendered. Emphasis will be placed on volunteerism by nationals directed at meeting the country's needs and the general promotion of the welfare of citizens. However, we will not overlook voluntary activities that are undertaken by nationals for the benefit of an international region of which Ghana is a part, and it's also applicable in this debate. Now, finally, we'll seek to reveal the absence of volunteering spirit in the Ghanaian and how this contributes to the country's state of underdevelopment. Now, we start. Ghana is a developing country, and we all agree, and this characterization is almost inextricably linked with high unemployment, inadequacy of relevant infrastructure, inefficient public structures, low literacy, and poor access to vital health services for the majority of the nationals. While measures are being put in place by the government to address these problems through education and improved production, there still exists a large percentage of individuals experiencing no immediate alleviation from these urgent challenges. Since the improvement of the standards of living of these people is extremely important for the general national development, an efficient measure that is sensitive to the limitations of the system is required to address these needs, and this measure we pose to you is volunteerism. Now, for the proof of our premise, we are going to present you two case scenarios which buttress our points that indeed volunteerism is necessary and is a contributing factor to the development of a country. According to the annual report of the Ghana Health Service, it laments on inadequate volunteers and low commitment of volunteers in rural districts, leading to poor health status of those indigents. The failure of the village volunteer system, which was introduced by the Ghanaian government in the 1970s due to apathy of trained volunteers and misappropriation of resources, brings us to this present situation. That is why we are having this debate. Now, these cases occurred in the presence of a sizable number of capable youth with access to training and flexibility of service. The absence of volunteerism is unjustified because aside the poor, unemployed, and incapable, there exists a large number of nationals with free time and resources to volunteer their skills to aid the less fortunate in areas including but not limited to health, education, agriculture, and social activism. Now, to the thematic cases and evidence that will provide you, we start with volunteerism serves as a means for basic equity. Although there exist state machinery and systems run by governments to enhance living standards or grant access to basic necessities, the nature of Ghana as a developing country within an equally developing sub-region demands a plethora of wants to be met with limited state funds. As such, the government on its own is under intense pressure to deliver these goals to the benefit of the societies. It then behooves on individuals or groups of individuals who are in a capacity and are themselves beneficiaries of the state investment to shed some of their good via voluntary social aids like outreaches, programs, and any other activity that will help reach the set of people who remain destitute or underdeveloped and disadvantaged in the society. Secondly, represents you that volunteerism acts as an instrument of change in a developing state. The manner, now let me set this right for the understanding of all of us. The manner in which a theory can be assessed with regards to its relevance in a state is by identifying the actual areas where this can be utilized and showing how this is relevant to required growth. Within Ghana, there are loads of pressures on our government, and in fact, we all do in every single way place pressure on our government to provide equitable access to social services to all the peoples. But then we tell you that this is a limitation because it does not reach to serve the immediate needs of the victimized sect. Let's consider the scenarios of accidents, of floods, and where we have the National Disaster Management Organization being contacted to help salvage the situations. Now, when we observe that when we look on as citizens and we tend to refer our duties to the government and say that, oh yes, whatever this problem is, it's up to the government to solve it. For example, floods, we leave it to the government to come and solve it for us. That is where we tell you that we need to develop the volunteering spirit in each of us as individuals and as patriotic citizens of this country. But let's reconsider these scenarios realistically. Before the government can serve its purposes, before we get up to hurl insults at the authorities, we should first recall that we are immediate patriotic citizens and we do have a quota to play to the development of the country. We should not overlook that part. Thus, the differences in social equality that inevitably plague humanity better place us all to aid one another at points in time when our abilities come in handy, which brings the theory of volunteerism. We move on, volunteerism as a factor for enhanced leadership. The motive of volunteerism is fueled by free-spirited will for service, which places the interest of those being served at the fore of the activity. Unlike monetarily incentivized activity, which has remuneration fueling the service being rendered, voluntary service subtly inculcates the spirit of service in individuals and causes them to be sensitive to the needs of the people first, and further aids them to realize the greater good of service. Noting that leaders emerge from the population itself, we must realize the caliber of leaders we would have if volunteerism was at its peak in the country. Leaders whose sole motive is to address the demands of the people, with issues like money and benefits being subservient to this cause, thus directly tackling the root of corruption which emerges from self-prioritization. Now, we'll also present to you international cases which buttress our point. In Ireland, volunteer organizations such as Poor Poverty Initiative performs free services and donates goods to poor and impoverished communities, which improves the quality of life for the less fortunate in society. For the benefits of the disabled minority, which is often left out of the major government policies, the MenCap LiveNet Volunteer Group offers and organizes teaching and training sessions complementing the existing measures to create more equality in the society. Let's take South Africa. The Child Welfare South Africa Initiative is responsible for catering for the immediate health, safety, and educational needs of the underprivileged children in rural South Africa. This has boosted youth literacy and welfare in the country, with positive effects on the country's development. Finally, in conclusion, volunteerism is not the only determinant of national development. Many others exist. However, in a country like Ghana, where other... Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we have the principal speaker speaking against the motion?
Distinguished panel of judges, never have we been so proud to oppose a motion like this one, because we think that in order to truly liberate Ghana from the shackles of underdevelopment, the right factors that inhibit our underdevelopment should be identified and mechanisms should be put in place to address those factors. In this debate, we are not the side that says volunteerism has no benefits. So all his analysis about volunteerism has some benefits here and there actually falls flat. That is not what this debate is about. This debate is about accessing the impacts of volunteerism and accessing the benefits of volunteerism and analyzing whether those are significant enough to prevent Ghana from developing. That is what this debate is about, not necessarily you telling us that volunteerism is down because volunteerism has benefits. We have two basic stances in today's debate. First, we are going to establish to you that volunteerism as an interest is something that is not lost in Ghana, and we'll show you why that is particularly important in today's debate. Secondly, we are going to analyze you that even if we were to assume that volunteerism is lost in Ghana, why its impact is insignificant for us to consider it as a contributory factor to our underdevelopment. A couple of clarifications in today's debate. Yes, we say that this motion is in two parts. There is a first part that says volunteerism is an interest that is lost in Ghana, and this is a contributory factor. So there exists a premise and there exists a conclusion. The premise part is that volunteerism is an interest that is lost in Ghana. So their burden is to establish to us that volunteerism is actually something that is lost in Ghana. And because volunteerism is lost in Ghana, that is why we are not having development. If we can prove to you in today's debate that in Ghana volunteerism is not an interest that is lost, they lose this debate. This is basic logic 101. This is critical thinking ABC. First, so let me give you an example. Let me give you an example to clarify. If I tell you that the reason why I failed mathematics was because, one of the reasons why I failed mathematics was because I had no calculator, and you are able to actually prove to me that I actually had a calculator, then that means you deny me my ability to use my lack of calculator as one of the reasons for which I failed math. So we also deny them their ability to use the fact that Ghanaians don't have volunteerism and actually show that the conclusion that they derive from it is actually flawed and doesn't stand in today's debate. So what proposition side in today's debate wants you to believe is that millions of Ghanaians are not having health care because Ghanaians are not helping each other. They want you to believe that the reason why we have a vibrant unemployment graduates association is because Ghanaians are not helping each other. We think that these are very, very ridiculous. First thing is why volunteerism is not lost. First argumentation is on the level of the existence of empirical evidence. We think that the very existence of this competition in and of itself is somehow indicative of the fact that Ghanaians are always willing to volunteer. We don't think YAS organize this thing solely because they want to make profits. They recognize that they need to groom the next generation of debaters. They recognize that they need to volunteer for their nation in this particular way. So if you have the existence of these things, if you have the existence of companies, of groups, for example, on campus here, there are so many volunteer groups that are there. We think that all these are indicative of the fact that people are increasingly engaging in volunteerism. Why? For two reasons. Because a Ghanaian value system recognizes that volunteerism is something that is important. We recognize that we should help each other. Volunteerism is basically about help, and they are accepted to this definition. So if Ghanaians, we help each other, and it is preached in Ghanaian value system as an acceptable thing, that pushes people to set up volunteering companies in Ghana, and we have a plethora of them in Ghana. He will give you examples. A second thing is because we get a sense of personal accomplishment when we volunteer, and this is why people continuously engage in volunteerism. On another level, we have people doing personal volunteerism. When we were coming here, we got lost on the way. Someone volunteered and brought us here. All these are indicative of volunteerism being in existence in Ghana. The third argument on this particular point is the existence of things that motivate us to want to volunteer. We tell you that religious organizations, for example, increasingly tell their members why they need to be good to their neighbors, why they need to help others, why they need to help the less privileged. We tell you that these things drive people to want to volunteer. A second thing is because of the visual feelings the media creates in us, as the pictures of images, schools and the trees, we want to volunteer all of these things. So their premise that volunteerism is lost in Ghana, who led them to the conclusion that this is a contributing factor to our development, actually falls, and they fall flat in today's debate. The second argumentation that we bring into today's debate is talking about the fact that even if we were to assume that volunteerism is lost in Ghana, which is not true, I've proved to you why. Let us tell you why volunteerism is not a contributing factor to Ghana not having proper mechanisms and Ghana being underdeveloped. Two argumentation in today's debate. First, it's an examination of the global trajectory for development. We tell you that nations like United States didn't develop at a particular point in time whereby they were blaming things like volunteerism and saying we are not developing because volunteerism is there. The global trajectory shows that nations develop at a point whereby they provided platforms for the thriving of capitalistic ideas. Two, when states actively supported science and technology, when states invested actively into the economy. Nations like United States and the global hegemonic forces that we are now seeing today didn't get to their extant case because they were blaming volunteerism. We don't think that volunteerism plays any role. If volunteerism was a significant determinant of development, then it should have been significant in the development of the United States. Japan mentioned these companies. We think that the very fact that these were not critical in the formation of these nations, we think that we can't attribute, we can't say that this thing is actually a significant factor. But then the second reason is the argument that is based as a contributing factor to development. When it is high number, its impact should be something that is so significant, so that you can now make the argument that because it is not there and because you are denied of these impacts, that is why you are not developing them at their best. And we can't really consider volunteer development. Here's why. Because if people want to volunteer in Ghana, an unemployed graduate to go and volunteer and get anything meaningful from it, so the impact of his volunteerism is going to be basically minimal. Secondly, you don't have the structures that will support his volunteerism. So even if I want to go to Pongtamale and teach, because I don't have proper roles to get to Pongtamale, I won't get there. So my volunteerism is very, very minimal. So the fact that we are not getting so much impact from an increased interest in volunteerism, that automatically shows that we are not being denied of anything special if we are going to assume this high. That is, assuming that every single person is volunteering in Ghana. But then let us do some engagement to these people. They say that the Ghana Health Service says that people are full of argumentation is. It is never the job of volunteers to provide health care for people. It is the job of governments to do it. So if they are basically saying that the Ghana Health Service has done that, that was never the job of volunteers to begin with. Governments need to invest capital and government needs to do this. We think that there are more fundamental things. And when we are talking about development, let us not kid ourselves and let us not focus on things that are very, very periphery and things that are not fundamental in the determination of our development. We should focus on more things. The global forces do not get there because of development. Secondly, we've taken away their premise to make the conclusion that we are not developing because of volunteerism, because volunteerism is actually there. This competition is very, very much indicative of that, and several other examples that we gave you. And the third analysis that we gave you in today's debate is the fact that the impact of volunteerism is not so nice. If you are going to have a high interest in volunteerism, and panel note, interest, a high interest in volunteerism, that interest will not automatically translate to a very beneficial thing because of the two factors that I analyzed to you. So interest in volunteerism, which is what this debate is about, doesn't do anything because people are constrained by these two forces. We're incredibly proud to oppose.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we appreciate the fact that we have critical thinkers and great speakers right here with us on the Yaz Intellectuals Debate Show. And of course, let me quickly say that this program is sponsored by Yaz. And I've told you about a toothpaste, which, and very mild. Yaz has already promised us that they are going to give each, and so we should be very expectant of that. And so that's the situation. Access Bank.
I've got Yes freshness. Wide wings and leak guards. Yes sanitary pads give you maximum comfort, hygiene and protection in a resealable pack. We've got Yes protection. Yes sanitary pads. Maximum protection, maximum confidence. Don't worry, we've got Yes protection.
Thank you very much and welcome from the break. On this note, let me call on the first supporting speaker for the motion.
The Honorable Chairperson, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what opposition fails to realize in this debate is that this debate doesn't seek government to prove that volunteerism is the savior of the Ghanaian economy, or that volunteerism is the thing that will save us from the shackles of underdevelopment or whatever. What it asks us to do is to prove that, one, volunteerism is indeed lost in development, and aid in little ways that in themselves are requisite to push a development. One, like volunteerism, where students, majority of students lose money to aid themselves, but rather a monetary incentive in them going out to work to aid the populace. Now, this last section of students who come out of the population are evidence of how the population aid in the status quo to aid volunteerism. Also, on how volunteerism is relevant to liberating the Ghanaian economy. Now, as I say in the Ghanaian economy, and evidence, like, we think it's truistic that there is no way volunteerism will be goals we want to reach. But
But however, what we have to prove to you is how volunteerism in itself is going to be a requisite tool to aid development. Now, why do I say this? On 2 levels. 1, we tell you development begins with a sensitized ascendant. Volunteerism possesses a spirit where people who take part in the activities are sensitized to do so because they believe in the will of aiding their country's development, since them being sensitized to aid their countries is a very start or genesis of anything going on, since the populace themselves aren't think it's to reach where we want to reach with the and government. Now we tell you that within every developing country, give them ways, building roads, schools, hospitals, how they can meet the teeming demands of each and every single one who need help, and the government being hard pressed with funds teeming demands like flood victims, like monetary issues and the like. So what then do we do as citizens who can aid? Who can aid these causes by giving out to the poor and the vulnerable, to waste matter on unavailable structures. Now we do believe that's terrorism. Now, but why do we still think that volunteerism can still work in these countries? Again, on 2 levels. It allows a wealthy class to still have enough resources and money circulates in that state. And so the wealthy class in societies can be incompetent, they able to aid development via volunteerism, by donating to causes and helping them to via insurgents. Limited to just say monetary giving, but the volunteerism goes beyond those frontiers and goes to communal and other stuff which just require normal energy and normal time and resources that people have for them. And so we believe that even within the poor in the district area, they don't need money per se to be able to volunteer to aid causes, but simply giving time, money, energy, and the like for issues like communal labor and the like are all forms of volunteerism, which we think will go on to help the country, considering our poor sanitary conditions within our country. Now, I'll add more flesh to what the Prime Minister said with regard to volunteerism. 1, on volunteerism be an instrument of change in developing countries. We tell you developing countries need a dire sense of urgency with regard to solving their problems. And the governments are hard pressed and cannot reach out to all these simultaneously. As such, what do the wealthy do to aid these situations? Do they all sit back and wait for a government to reach out to everyone? Which will be impossible due to the logical nature of this. Or secondly, do they aid by coming out voluntarily to aid causes via donations, by outreach and like, which people do, like for example, doctors, Ghanaian doctors, procurement doctors, to go out to the north to reach out to the sick out there to help them in the north, as opposed to wait for doctors to reach them and to put it to the northern areas to aid them.
Thank you very much. All right, can we have the first supporting speaker against the motion?
Chairperson, panel of judges, accurate timekeepers. My name is Safo Kwame Oheneba. Greetings from the Vandal City. The chair of the House, government loses this debate when they characterize us as the side who is saying we shouldn't volunteer. We are for volunteerism. What we are saying is that if you are to blame our lack of development in Ghana, you can't say volunteerism is that cause or a contributory factor to that lack of development. That is something they miss in this debate. It is very ironic for us to stand on a stage where we argue YAS sponsors a program about promoting great leaders in the future, something which is voluntary. They are not going to get any monetary gain or anything from it. They sponsor people to come here and sit down. And at the end of the day, you tell me volunteerism is an interest which is lost in Ghana. We feel this is a disregard to voluntary groups like Destiny Child Foundation, which is made up of the social works of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, which comes together to make sure that they go for charity and make sure they alleviate poverty in our society. We believe that you disregard this when you tell me that volunteerism is an interest that is lost. We believe that is false. Volunteerism is not lost and it's in the status quo. Now, engaging Solomon. Solomon, to use a point to win, talks about National Service Scheme and the way people use National Service Scheme. We believe National Service Scheme is not something which is voluntary, because if you don't do your national service, you can't become an MP. They check all these things. These things are prerequisites to become big people in the future. So it's not something which is voluntary, has to be free will. It is not something which is free will. You are obligated to do it. So don't come and talk about national service here. He comes here and he also talks about the urgency and the need to sensitize people. People in the status quo are already sensitized. That is why people who can't contribute in their any way goes on radio and bring out their frustration and how they feel that the country should develop. These are always people who are volunteering. So I'll come to my point where I show you that volunteerism as an interest is not lost. but it's because of something constraint like monetary factors and lack of resources. That's why we can't see it. Now they characterize volunteerism again as something which is supposed to be grand, like building. Dia tells you, even in helping us get here, the person indirectly has volunteered. We give you an example of even Kwame Despite when he built a child maternity ward for the 37 military hospital. All these are volunteerism acts, and they should pay close attention to it. Now let's take them. Please, who has heard of Turkmenistan in this book? No one has heard of Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan is the first country which has the highest voluntary rate. Turkmenistan rates ahead of US, they rate ahead of the UK. They have the highest voluntary rate. Yet still, Turkmenistan is so impoverished and is underdeveloped. Turkmenistan has gas, natural resources, but cannot make good use of that natural resources. Then what is the need of this volunteerism? Volunteerism is high. They surpass America, they surpass UK, and yet still they are impoverished. We tell you that volunteerism, there is no nexus between volunteerism and development. I give you the second most contributing country to volunteerism is Myanmar. And we all know what's going on in Myanmar with the Rohingya Muslims and a lot of ethnic cleansing. It's a place which is a living hell to live in. And yet though, they are the people with the highest volunteerism in the country. There is no connection. There is no correlation. There is no relationship between volunteerism and development. Now on the impact, we tell you that even if volunteerism, every single person in this building volunteers, we are still not going to feel the maximum impact on our development, because you may have the interest to volunteer, but because of constraints, like let's say you are going to build a school, you might have the capital sometimes, all right, but that money to maintain that school you have built, you end up having schools which uses stones as mounds and stuff like that. We believe that this capital, this constraint, people have the interest, but they lack that constraint. And if you say we have gained something, then if we have lost volunteerism, you have to per logic. That means we had volunteerism in the past and now we have lost it. But we tell you that when we had volunteerism in the past, if that's what they claim, then Ghana should have been very developed because we had volunteerism. But research shows that our HDI level and our GDP level has risen even in a year which you are saying volunteerism is lost. So comparatively, 1990s or in the past where you said we gained volunteerism, per this status quo which you claim we don't have volunteerism, our development level is even higher than the times where you said we lack volunteerism. The chair of the house, we need to make something very clear in this debate. We tell you that for something to become a contributory factor, that means it has to be very significant. We believe that the contribution of volunteerism is insignificant or not that much to be classified as a voluntary factor. An example is if I go to the Agbogboleshi market and Parliament wants to solve something like air pollution, excuse my language, but let's say Ziad fat at Agbogboleshi market. But Ziad fatting at Agbogboleshi market is not going to be something Parliament has to stand on to say we are going to ban air pollution. The things they will look at are the drain gutters and stuff like that. We have pressing needs like corruption and all other stuff.
Thank you.
Volunteerism is not the cause of our lack of development. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Shall we have the second supporting speaker for the motion?
Panel, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen, before I focus on the contribution of opposition to this debate, we'll handle some rebuttals of the cases of opposition. Now, first, on the argument on how volunteerism is not a contributing factor, giving examples of Turkmenistan and Myanmar, we tell you exclusively from proposition that states truly improve mainly by capitalism and all that they say. Now, Ghana is doing all of this. Ghana is trying to improve by putting in all policies to ensure that we industrialize and we capitalize and needs to develop. Yet the progress is extremely slow and we are facing very urgent problems in Ghana. So in the absence of government's reach to certain regions, what do we do in the meantime to save thousands of lives who are suffering? We volunteer by offering free labor to help these people to alleviate their problems so they can also contribute to national development. Secondly, they tell you that this debate is about volunteerism and as a significant contributing factor. Now we tell that Ghana is a developing country. That means that our needs are very, very urgent. People are dying from malaria, aside from urgent problems. Now, let's take them at their best. Even if volunteerism would help only 1% of citizens, that is hundreds of thousands of individuals who will now be capable of contributing to the national development of the country. So their arguments on that basis is very ludicrous. Thirdly, we tell you that volunteerism is lost in Ghana for the following reasons. Now we tell you that proportional to the wealth in Ghana, proportional to the youth size of Ghana, statistics which we show you from proposition They just tell you about an individual escorting them to this place. We give you statistics from GHS, we give statistics from the Four Poverty Initiative, etc., to show you why statisticians have brought out reports to prove that volunteerism is on the low. They give you only assertions, and hence we can't take them at their best in this debate. Now, on our fourth point, we show you how production and productivity as the way forward even better helps our part. Now, production of goods and services is a capitalist world that they cherish on their side. Now, by providing free labor from volunteerism and reducing the amount of capital spent on paying individuals, you have even more money to capitalize and industrialize, because then you have more money left over to build more factories, to industrialize and capitalize as they see it on their side. Now, on their fifth argument that government should take more responsibility, we tell you that government is faced with so many limitations and plagued with the evils of politics. Now, citizens should not be spectators as given by our own president. So we as citizens should be the change that we want to see in the country by volunteering. Now, they also tell you that people cannot volunteer because they don't have the money, they don't have the ability, they don't have etc. So that people live in plush hostels. Students own Range Rovers. Politicians and businessmen own a lot of wealth. If the poor cannot do it, these select people have the ability and the placement to volunteer to help a community. We are proud to propose. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, second supporting speaker, for the motion. We'd still like to acknowledge our sponsors, and the show is proudly brought to you by Yaz, range of products, Yaz pads, sanitary towels, great for the month. Every lady should be able to get their Yaz sanitary towel for very comfortable feeling during the month. All right, we'll take on our second supporting speaker against the motion.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ankoma Kelvin from Commonwealth Hall. The first in this debate, we talk to you about volunteerism not being lost, as against they telling you that volunteerism is being lost in the status quo. We gave you instances about like the narrative being preached in a society, we needing to prove and like educate people. Already in the status quo, we see people are volunteering because that's the stance, right? They paint a picture that volunteerism is only about giving grants and giving money, right? But students, even in the tertiary institutions, as Safo told you, creating NGOs, trying to do a little step to help, it's all about volunteerism because they're not doing it for any monetary reward, they're doing it to help society. As against them telling you that the Ghana Health Service, right? They give you something about Ghana Health Service and saying that because people are not healthy in the health sector. That case, like, it's a burden on governments, as Ziad proved to you in this debate, right? We are talking about little things that individual citizens do that contribute to development in the country. So on that clash, most importantly, we show you and taking them at their best and saying that even though volunteerism is lost, it's not a major contributory factor. We tell you that for something to be discussed as a contributory factor in the country's development means that when the thing is not there, right, like we should have a high impact, right? We gave you analysis of a country like Japan and China. They investing in science and technology and all these things, created the basis for their development, right? It was not issues about volunteerism or whether volunteerism is lost or not. We think that it's very problematic. So we tell you that volunteerism, even though in the status quo, let's say that even if it's lost, we say it's not a contributory factor we should concentrate all our efforts on to solve, right? Then we tell you, giving you the parallel relationship between volunteerism and development. We tell you that looking at countries such as Myanmar and Turkmenistan, as we give you, right, there's volunteerism uprise, there's volunteerism going on in the status quo, but what correlation has it got with development? We say that concentrate on the key factors that lead to the development of a country other than these things, right? Then we tell you on a realistic case, like most importantly, let's say the impact of volunteerism. So let's say even if volunteerism is on the high, but now we see that there are structures that inhibit people. So let's say we all here have the moral obligation, we are all intrinsically motivated to volunteer. But we talk about there's no development because the people don't have the capital to actually make the move, as these people say. Secondly, we tell you that the structures are inhibiting in themselves. So we say personal, like self-preservation is very important. If I want to go and teach people in some village in Ayawaso and like there are bad roads there, I think of myself first, right? These things are inhibiting factors and these things like inhibits the impact of volunteerism. So we concede to the fact that yes, indeed, if every single individual in the country wants to volunteer, and hence there are structures such as capital and structures inhibiting these people to volunteer, we find that very problematic in the status quo. Doesn't mean like volunteerism falls flat in this debate. But lastly, we talk to you about like. Thank you.
Round of applause for all of them. They've done a wonderful job. They've done a great job right here. And I'm sure we are all very much appreciative of what they've been able to do. Great minds at display, very, very much intellectual. The Yas intellectuals.
Grooming the next generation of great debaters.
The Yas intellectuals.
Grooming the next generation of great debaters.
All right, so we are proudly sponsored by Yas, and they've told me they are going to give each and every one of us a present. So don't go just yet. Don't go just yet. And we're again supported by Capital O2 and Access Bank.
All right, so we'll go for a quick break.
I love Fruit Frosted Flakes because it's so crunchy and full of nutrients. All you need is milk. As usual, Mom.
9 minus 3, 2, 2. That's it? Yes?
90.
Which cereal flakes has 9 essential nutrients with no artificial additives or colors? Yes?
Fruit Frosted Flakes is rich in vitamin E, B12, iron, high in carbohydrates, fiber, protein, sodium, and it's very affordable.
Clap for him.
Fruit Frosted Flakes! Fruit Frosted Flakes! All you need is milk.
Coach comes with 3 variants: Frosty Flakes, Choco Flakes, and Cornflakes. Each pack has 10 mini packs of 50 grams, and each box you buy comes with a free exercise book. Hooch is available in all supermarkets and retail shops. Hooch Frosty Flakes. All you need is milk.
Welcome back from that break. All right, so the Yas Intellectual is fostering national cohesion through dialogue.
Exactly so.
And we can see that exactly being displayed here on the stage. Okay, our moderators are ready with their data, and then we'll find out which team did justice to their topic.
The judges scored independently. We put our totals together, and here are the composite overall totals. One side scored 54.5. Another side scored 71.8. The one side that scored the winning number of 71.8 is those against the motion. That is Commonwealth. And Jean Nelson, he scored 54.5. It is the opinion of the judges that these two sides have presented excellent debating skills. Let's give them all a round of applause.
Once again, congratulations to all the competing teams, to Jan Nelson and also to the winning side, that is the Commonwealth Hall. We would like to say again that in this competition, there are no losers, there are only contributors. So you have all contributed well to the motion. We made a few observations and would like to touch on those observations. We believe that this team has presented one of the most exciting and very academically sound, intellectual, and critically well-taught competition or presentation. And we say congratulations to that. The Jan Nelson side was very poised and very calm in their presentations. They actually sought to establish a construct of volunteerism. They constructed volunteerism from their point of view as it relates to what they were about to present. And that, we thought, was a very good thing they did. We didn't have that from the opposing side. They also came up with some case scenarios which they wanted to use to establish their point. We, however, found that most of the time the presenters were reading rather than presenting. So it's something that we hope you would improve upon the next time. We also noted that few instances, one of the presenters was pocketing, was putting the hands or the palms in the pocket. And sometimes we do recognize that is a way of gaining one's composure to be able to flow. On the whole, we believe that you did a great job, and the points you made attest to that fact. On the side of the winning team, that is Commonwealth Hall, it was very intellectual. In fact, the most intellectual that I have observed so far in this competition. This is because you first established the premise and assumptions of the debate or the topic itself. You presented your position. In other words, your thesis statement was very well couched and clearly presented. You raised arguments for and against, and your work was very well researched with good supporting evidence to every point that you sought to advance. The first presenter did a really great job for the team, and we say congratulations. The second presenter did very well, but occasionally was a little bit quite emotional. Excellent exposition. Thank you very much.
Okay, this show was proudly brought to you by Yas range of products, supported by Capital O2 and Access Bank.
We'll see you once again. Bye-bye from us.